Welcome back to the deep dive. So you're looking to really boost your English communication skills, right? Maybe for an exam, for work, or just, to feel more confident. If that's you, then this deep dive is definitely something you want to stick around for. You're probably after a strategy, maybe a faster way that actually gets results. Yeah, and we've been digging into sources that look at both those foundational study habits, the classics, and also the huge role technology plays now. Social media too. Our goal today isn't just to give you a list, it's more about the how. How do you actually weave these strategies into your life effectively for learning vocab or even prepping for something big like IELTS?
Exactly. That how is crucial. Looking at all the material, the main takeaway seems pretty clear. Learning really sticks when it's consistent and when you're actively using the language. It's not just about soaking it up passively. Okay, so let's maybe unpack this. A good place to start, I think, is with those core habits. The low-tech stuff that really forces you to produce the language yourself.
Good idea. Yeah. Let's keep it accessible first.
Before we jump into the latest apps, what about just fitting English into the things we already do, things we actually enjoy? The sources kept bringing up a couple of simple things that really successful learners seem to do. First one, listening to English music. But crucially, not just listening. It's about trying to actually sing along. That physical act, it forces your mouth to make the sounds, practice the rhythm, all without feeling like you're in a formal lesson.
Oh, absolutely. It's a brilliant way in because it gets around that mental block so many people have about speaking. You're kind of using muscle memory, physical learning. It helps anchor the language better than just hearing it passively. Yeah. You're basically practicing speaking, but it feels like fun.
And the second habit, watching movies. But again, there's a specific way to do it. The sources strongly advise skipping dual language subtitles. You really need to use English subtitles. They emphasize this because seeing the English words while hearing them spoken, well, it forces that connection, doesn't it, between the sound and the written word. Yeah, that dual input makes a huge difference for comprehension. It helps bridge that gap between recognizing a word on a page and actually understanding it when someone says it quickly in conversation. If you watch with no subtitles, you might miss too much. Use your native language subs and you kind of sabotage learning the sound spelling link in English.
Okay, so this next one gets into that daily production idea, and it can feel a bit awkward at first talking to yourself.
Yeah.
Specifically, talking to a mirror. The sources really recommended this.
Yeah, the mirror technique. It's a classic good habit, but it's worth thinking about why it's better than just, say, rehearsing silently in your head. Mental practice doesn't give you that feedback loop. When you talk to the mirror, you're physically forming the words, and you see immediately how your mouth, your tongue are moving. That visual cue is so important for fixing small pronunciation errors that might stop people understanding you.
So these simple foundational tips, they're not really about fancy tools. It's more about the commitment, right?
Yeah.
Actively producing English every day, even if it's just singing off key or describing making coffee out loud. Consistency is the key.
Precisely. Think of it like training for a marathon. Those daily habits are your basic conditioning. Doesn't matter how fancy your running shoes are if you haven't put in the miles.
Speaking of fancy shoes,
Yeah.
Let's talk tech. How do we take that daily commitment and, give it a boost with modern tools? How do we go from the mirror to the screen without just getting overwhelmed?
Well, the change is revolutionary. Technology has basically smashed the old limits of time and place for learning. You really can learn anytime, anywhere. Makes excuses harder to come by, actually.
Your smartphone is now essentially a whole learning hub in your pocket. The convenience is just incredible. We saw examples of learners treating their phones like a mini universe for learning, using apps specifically to learn new words daily, getting instant access to thousands of resources, YouTube explainers, podcasts for specific levels. It's all there.
And what's fascinating is just the sheer amount of stuff available. You're not tied to library hours or waiting for your teacher anymore. You can grab your phone while you're walking, cooking, whatever, and do some focused learning. Messaging friends in English, watching short videos, quick vocab quizzes.
And the pandemic really pushed this forward, didn't it? Forced a lot of people into online classes, making the phone or tablet totally essential for studying.
Definitely. But this amazing convenience, this mini universe full of resources, It has a downside too, which brings up a really important point for anyone serious about learning.
Which is, how do we stay in control? Having everything one click away sounds great, but our sources pointed to the dark side too. Tech speeds things up, sure, but it can also be a huge distraction.
That's the nub of it. The sources warn that this instant access can sometimes make students a bit, well, passive, maybe even lazy. It discourages the effort needed for real long-term learning. If the answer or translation is always just a tap away, you don't struggle. And that struggle is actually pretty important for making things stick in your memory.
Yeah, it creates this weird situation. We saw people talking about feeling addicted to scrolling. One source even mentioned getting that screen time report every Sunday and feeling kind of judged by your own device. It's funny, but it highlights a real issue. Without balance, a lot of that potential learning time just gets wasted.
And connecting this back to the bigger picture, especially for you more advanced learners out there, this is where critical thinking, analytical skills become so important for true mastery. So for you, the listener, if your goal is real sophistication, the kind of fluency you need for maybe a Band 7 or higher in IELTS speaking or writing, you have to go beyond just describing things. A Band 7 answer really shows you can handle complex ideas clearly with structure. Analytically.
Okay, so if the text sometimes makes us a bit lazy, maybe encourages simple yes-no thinking. How do we train our brains to see the shades of gray, to be more analytical?
By synthesizing. You can't just list points. You need to show you understand different sides of an issue. Present balanced ideas. For example, don't just say, social media is bad, it distracts me. You need to analyze it. While social media offers incredible educational resources, at the same time, it presents a significant potential for distraction. See the difference?
Okay. So the way you structure the argument itself shows your level of fluency.
Absolutely. And the specific tool here is using those contrastive linking words effectively. We're talking words like however, conversely, on the other hand, whereas at the same time, they act like signposts for the listener, the examiner. They signal you're not just listing facts, you're engaging in some proper analysis.
Can you break that down a bit more? How does using a word like conversely actually lift the quality?
Sure, let's say you just say, I like studying on my phone. Sometimes I waste time on my phone. That's okay, but it's two separate, simple thoughts. But compare that to, while the smartphone's accessibility has revolutionized how I study, letting me learn new words daily, conversely, this very ease of access means I have to consciously fight the urge to scroll through distracting feeds. Instantly, that sounds more thoughtful, more analytical.
Yeah, it does. It makes the answer deeper, more detailed, and probably sounds a lot more natural for a high-level speaker. It's not just about perfect grammar then.
Exactly. And just a general fluency tip that came up, when you answer questions, try to avoid just simple yes or no. Always add a little detail, the how or the why. That little bit of extra information shows confidence and shows you're actually applying what you know.
Okay, great advice. So we've got the foundations, we've got using current tech wisely. Let's look ahead a bit. Where's technology likely to take English learning next?
Well, the big buzz is definitely around AI, artificial intelligence. There seems to be broad agreement in the sources that AI will change everything, mostly through hyper-personalization.
Right, that idea of a personalized learning assistant.
Yeah.
That sounds genuinely game-changing. An AI tutor that adapts everything, the topics, the difficulty, the feedback specifically to your level, maybe even your mood on a given day.
Exactly. Imagine prepping for a big speaking exam. An AI could simulate the test conditions, listen to you, and give immediate, really specific feedback. Not just on grammar, but maybe on your argument structure, your word choice, your clarity. That kind of instant, tailored feedback just hasn't been feasible on a mass scale before.
So we're moving away from the one-size-fits-all textbook or class towards something much more targeted, almost like surgical strikes on your language weaknesses.
In terms of efficiency, yes, AI looks incredibly powerful. But the sources also caution against thinking technology is the entire answer. We shouldn't forget the human element. Things like guidance from teachers, tutors, maybe even friendly deep dives like this one. They still provide vital context, motivation, that emotional support. Tech can't really replicate that fully.
So, wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway? We started looking for that fast track, and it seems the path involves walking a bit of a tightrope, finding that balance. So to recap, really nail those daily foundational habits, singing along, talking to the mirror for active practice. Use text strategically, apps for words, English subtitles, but be really disciplined about avoiding the distractions. And crucially, push yourself to think and speak analytically. Use those linking words, however, on the other hand, to build sophisticated, balanced arguments.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the core message seems to be technology is an amazing tool, a real accelerator, but it's your discipline, your critical engagement that determines how effective it actually is. You need that balance between taking information in and actively putting language out.
We heard how AI is moving towards these really smart, personalized tutors offering instant feedback on the nuts and bolts of language. If tech gets so good at handling the technical side of instruction, what then is the role of genuine human interaction? You have the kind you get in a conversation like this or in a classroom. What role does that play in building the confidence, the resilience, the critical thinking you need to actually use the language effectively in the real world? Something to think about as you plan your own learning journey.